Hi everyone. Well, here I have Sarita Sol again with me. We've had, I think, three conversations, Sarita, at least.
That's right.
Sarita is a shamanic practitioner. She's living in France in a beautiful place near Bergerac. And she originally trained in both feminine and masculine practices that are rooted in healing and seership. I love that word, seership. So her real calling in life is to enlighten others to their true healing and empowerment, and that comes via your sovereignty and your authenticity, which are big, big words as we go into all of these this Aries energy as of yesterday and ongoing with Neptune moving into Aries, and also connecting that authentic sovereign self to the earth and to source consciousness, which I absolutely love. So Sarita is going to be doing most of the talking today, and she's going to be talking to us about the Equinox Blossom New Earth Infinity Walk, which sounds absolutely intriguing. And I'm going to put a link below this video, and you can go to her website, and this will be available for free on her website too. But she just wanted to talk about it up front so that we can all understand it a lot better. So over to you, Sarita. Big times that we're in at the moment with the astrology.
We certainly are. Thank you, Pam. Yes, so obviously I reached out to you because I had this very strong feeling and impulse that the equinox was going to be actually a pivotal point for humanity if they could work with the energies in a co-creational way. And what I've understood is that obviously, because it falls between two eclipses, the first eclipse that we've just gone through was this massive letting go eclipse. And then the one that's coming up is a creational eclipse. It's offering us new potentiality. And the equinox falling in between is this, it's a 0 point portal again, and it's a place of equal balance. And so it's an infinity point. And you were telling me that that you that you experienced a massive letting go as well for the first one, and I did too. I had emotional letting go, and there's just so much potential coming up. And but what I've really realized is that on this planet we are a collective species, and so we have this literally this design that allows us to create a new reality at will. And so I wanted to use these energies because what happened to me a few years ago was I had this, I don't know if you could call it a download, but it was a kind of a seership, seeing and knowing of the reason why people like you and myself and all of your followers and all the light workers, they've got other names, but all of us had kind of landed on the planet. And I was shown that we were placed around the globe in pockets of darkness. So amongst family and friends who were unconscious. Okay. And we were specifically placed in those areas because we needed to go through a kind of rite of passage where we felt completely alone, so that we started to seek out others who were of a similar vibration to us, let's say. And I was shown that the human design is that our feet, you just mentioned this in the intro, but our feet are rooted into the earth, and our heads, if you like, are in the cosmos, because we are earthling and cosmic beings. And I talked about this in one of when I spoke to you before, and I mentioned that we have this connection to the earth and stellar stars. And I was shown that our hearts, which are essentially our direct access to source consciousness, because our heart centers are the 0 point portal to the heart of the cosmos. What was happening with all of these people dotted around the globe was that there were these light threads coming out of our hearts and finding connections into the hearts of the others. And we were kind of creating this luminous grid around the globe. So it was literally our hearts. It was like we were planted in the earth and our hearts were connecting. We were receiving this information from cosmos. And so we created this new web around the globe. And at the moment, we are living in what I would call an inverted matrix, low density frequency bandwidth. So it literally is like a matrix. I've even seen it. I've seen it. It's kind of, it feels very limiting and enclosed. Okay. And obviously I should think by now most people have worked out that there are some nefarious agendas, let's say, on the planet that are playing out. And what's happened is that humans have unconsciously co-created a consensus reality that isn't serving us anymore. Perhaps it did serve us at one point because we needed to go, you know, right into the darkness because we live in polarity, but now we're coming out of that. And so the only reason this inverted matrix exists on the planet is because we've created it. We've been influenced, but nevertheless, it was us. We need to take responsibility for that. And so what I was shown was that our new light web is essentially, over the last years, I'm not sure since when, but all of us have been activating the light of that web, which is an octave higher in frequency than the one that we're currently in. And so what that web does is it offers everyone the option to move into a different frequency bandwidth, because if there's no option, people wouldn't move into it. So it's like they're all the people in the dark, in the dense web, and now they're being offered this light web. So they get the choice, essentially. And without us, there wouldn't, you know, the light workers on this planet, there wouldn't be a choice. And so more and more people are choosing this web. And the more people that choose it, we get this kind of a critical mass moment, where if enough people choose it, the other one fades away. It's like neural networks in the brain. And in fact, actually, it's a neural network consensus, isn't it? So if you don't use a neural network and you keep choosing a different thought, the old networks, literally, they disintegrate, don't they?
And if I can just say, Sarita, the number of people that have written to me who can see this web of light when we do our 15-minute free meditations every night, so many people can see it. They see it getting stronger and brighter every single week. So what you're saying is what people are reporting back to me that they're experiencing in those meditations. And of course, people are organizing meditations all over the world. I'm just, you know, one person who's offered it. So it's so interesting to hear you talk about that. Now, it's spot on, you know, to my experience in terms of what you're saying.
Yeah, that's amazing. And I've had the same. I've had people who can see the old matrix and the new one coming in as well. And so really, so essentially it's like the 100th monkey syndrome, you know, where you get 100 monkeys on an island, one of them learns to bash a coconut and, you know, open it, and then suddenly monkeys all over the world start bashing coconuts. And I was thinking about this earlier. I was thinking, imagine if one of us, you know, from this interview is the 100th monkey, because we don't know which one it's going to be that just tips us into this critical mass. But for sure something's falling away. And maybe the reason why it seems so destructive, what's going on now in dense reality, is because that matrix is literally crumbling. So it's actually self-destructing. So that's a hopeful thing to think about for people who are out there kind of in the middle of it, you know. I feel very blessed on my kind of retreat hilltop, where I'm not surrounded in that kind of chaos. But I've got a lot of clients that are in America, for example, and it's hard for them, you know, to remain neutral and to be the light and not get pulled into that kind of polarity. I'm sure that you're seeing that from a lot of other people as well who are struggling. I think it's for the good, though.
Absolutely. And I think it's in recognizing that polarity, being conscious of it, that allows us to make the choice to go beyond it, to unity consciousness. Because unless we can see that polarity really clearly, we don't know there's a problem with it to go beyond it.
Exactly. It's like the light workers all being lonely and then finding out that they can go beyond that and create this connection, this quantum entanglement. And actually the lockdown was amazing for that, because it taught people to connect all over the world, that we don't actually need physical bodies.
It was a real catalyst.
Yeah, absolutely. But having said that, I think there's this kind of big misconception about the ascension, because I think a lot of people think that we're ascending into another dimension. And we are, but it's internal, and we're taking our bodies with us.
Yeah, I'd 100% agree with that. And the way I see it, Sarita, is an expanded consciousness, a greater sense of spaciousness. So we may still, live in the same home and have the same car and the same friends to some degree, although I think will change a lot. But it's this greater sense of expansion and multidimensionality, which is going to start to come in a much bigger way, much greater psychic sensitivity, particularly from the end of this month, once Neptune moves into Aries. I think that's really going to come in quite strongly for people.
Yeah, and the telepathy, which is what the internet has taught us.
Yes.
So, the phone rings, you know who it is. It's like all of these, it's clever. This reality is teaching us what we need to know to evolve. But I really do think that we need to do the work, because awareness is so important. That's the first step, but then we need to do things, and that's me. I'm a Capricorn. So obviously put here to tell people to do stuff, and so that's why I wanted to offer this, because we've got all this potential, but we don't upgrade in our DNA unless we actively choose to do so. This is the thing, we've got to use the matter bit of our bodies as well as the sort of spirit and soul aspect of ourselves. So we have to actually, it's a thought, word and deed reality, isn't it? That's when we're manifesting.
Yeah, that's really interesting, because Aries is all about taking action.
Oh, amazing. There you go then.
All about initiating, taking action, doing the physical thing, as it were.
Yeah.
So it's really fascinating. And I know people loved your walking the 8 in the last conversation we had. So this is, I think, another step up from that. Yes?
Absolutely. So just to reiterate, the walking the 8 is essentially, I've actually got a demo on my website, which is 5 minutes. So I'm not going to give you the demo today. But essentially what you do is you hold an intention and you walk physically in a figure of 8 between two rocks. And what that does is it causes the electromagnetic field of your body, your biofield, to pull from source consciousness plasma that becomes denser and denser and then forms into crystallized informational matter in your physical realm. Okay, so in not only in your body but in your biofield, which holds all of the information pertaining to your reality. And the reason it does that is because when you're walking in the figure of 8, you are walking in perfect balance. Think of the equinox, perfect balance, okay, through the 0 point portal at the knot of the 8. And every time you walk through a 0 point portal, you have direct access to source. So every time you're walking, you're having direct access. And then if you think about the equinox energies aligning up with that as well. And then so I received this information to take it up another notch. Okay, so I've created this walk, which is slightly different. It's longer. And what we're going to do before we even start the walk, we're standing at the knot of the 8. We're going to connect our bodies to the earth and stellar stars, which is our inherent energetic architecture. So we're going to connect to our architecture. And actually the 8 is part of our architecture as well, because we are infinite beings with an infinite energy source. That's how we create. So that the whole 8, walking in the 8, aligns you to your truth. Okay. So as we're standing at the knot of the 8, what I'm going to do, and I guide you doing this, is we're going to get our first 5 energy centers and place them inside our heart centers. And when I was recording it, and I actually did it myself last night, but when I was recording it, it's really interesting because so every energy center is related to a dimension. So the first center is related to the first dimension, which is the heart of Gaia. It's the core. The second energy center, so the first energy center is also your connection to Earth. The second energy center is related to the second dimension, which is everything underneath the surface of the Earth, and is related to your connection to community. Your third center is related to this third dimensional reality, and it's related to your connection to yourself. Obviously, your heart center is related to the heart of the cosmos and the fourth dimension, which it's the invisible realm that surrounds us, okay, that gives us access to all of the other dimensions. And then the fifth center, which is at your throat, is your connection to your truth and related to the fifth dimension, which is what we're moving into, okay? So the reason that we're moving into the fifth dimension is because now we're coming into the truth of who we are, which is creator consciousness.
Beautiful. It's just so beautiful the way you explain that, and we absolutely are. Our sense of co-creation is going to become so much stronger because we're moving out of this victim script that we've had for so many lifetimes of constantly deferring to external authorities, and also, frankly, with astrology, deferring to the planets. We're going to we're going to take our sovereignty back even from that and realize everything is an inside job. Everything.
Yeah, absolutely. But also the thing I realize, I mean, I teach people that even if they fix just themselves, they affect change in the outside world. That's absolutely true. But I think we were always supposed to create this ascension collectively, because we're one unit, really. We are part of the body of Gaia. And so that's what this does. And so what happens is when you can pull all of those energy centers into your heart center, your connection to the earth, your connection to community, your connection to yourself, your connection to your truth comes from unconditional love. Because normally the first three centers that we've been working through and the fourth center, there are kind of survival centers. So a lot of people have been storing trauma and past lives and all kinds of different experiences, particularly in those first three centers. Then obviously the heart, which is the middle center, then offers you up to the higher centers where we start to notice that we have access to multidimensionality. So what this walk does is when you move those into the heart center, and you're connected those aspects of yourself, which essentially the brains that tell all of the cells in your body how to behave, you suddenly feel yourself not just as multisensory, but as a multidimensional being. And then from that space, we begin to walk. And the walk is to blossom a new earth.
Oh, beautiful.
And I did it last night, and I had a crazy experience. I had one of those, when you're in meditation and you just go, you're just gone. You're in the cosmos. You can suddenly see everything. And I had one of those experiences last night. And even though I'm only announcing this kind of now with you, I could feel all the people who were doing it. Oh. And my heart center expanded to larger than the size of the earth. It was just bananas. And I suddenly saw just a completely new reality, but I was so expanded. It was bananas. So I'm hoping that a lot of people on this channel, I mean, how many followers have you got?
Subscribers, 370,000.
Well, can you imagine if all of them did this and co-created it?
For free. For free.
Yes, of course. And the thing is, we could be the 100th monkey.
I think this is thrilling. And that's partly why I'm doing the meditations for free as well, because it's creating such a kind of tsunami of love out in the world that we're kind of jumping timelines all the time now. So with this, particularly with it being a focused experience, that magnetizes the group energy, and it magnifies the group energy, magnifies the effect that we have. So, wow. Yeah.
And also you were saying that the equinox is like the first layer. So you don't need to do this on the equinox, because time, actually, as we know, is, it's not, we've created it. It's actually, everything's in the now moment. And you said that this equinox, the energies of it is like the first layer. It's like the new year of what we're going to do. So it doesn't matter when you do it, it's going to be helpful, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. And it is more powerful than most Aries equinoxes because all of the astrology for the year is so incredibly powerful. But yes, it doesn't matter when you do it. That's kind of just the underpinning, almost the energetic underpinning for what we're going to experience over the next 12 months.
Yeah, it was amazing. And when I did the walk, so I started off, I could suddenly see, I was just seeing such amazing things. All of humanity looking after the children on the earth as if they were the
Wow.
most precious beings ever, and listening to them and witnessing them and allowing them to be who they were. So that was the first thing that happened. I was just like, wow, this is so amazing. And then I saw what I saw was I saw humanity waking up as if it had been in a dream. And as they woke up, all disease fell away because it had been a dream.
Well,
And
that's
disease,
Neptune and moving out of Pisces, the very last degree of Pisces, which is the kind of crisis degree around Pisces, and it's going to move out, as I say, on the 30th. It's at the crisis degree on the 29th, but that is usually the culmination of Neptune moving through Pisces. And Pisces is about the dream, the illusion. It's about our immune systems. It can be about
amazing.
viruses and illnesses, depletion in the immune system. So as it moves into Aries, there's a kind of uptick in the energy and greater focus and clarity.
That's amazing because it was really like everyone woke up and went, "Oh, what a terrible dream!" And if you wake up and have a dream, you feel a bit icky for a bit, a bit funny during the day, but then it all falls away. And it was like that whole because all disease is separation consciousness, isn't it? It's so so it was like the separation consciousness just fell away, and everyone suddenly had no disease, and then all the mental health just fell away because it was just unnecessary and unrelated, and everybody could start to sort of spontaneously hear and feel one another. And of course, if you can feel someone else, you wouldn't dream of hurting them or even sending a negative thought their way
But that
because
ends hunger and poverty and war, doesn't it?
oh, so that was the next thing I saw. I saw and all of the soldiers around the world wake up and look at the weapons in their hands and one another and the people they were fighting, and simultaneously they all just put down their weapons. And so I can't even tell you what this experience was like, Pam. I was like, oh my God. And I know this is what everyone really wants.
Yeah, and I've said that so often that because people say, well, why don't you do something practical about the war? But what do? You can't deliver aid there. It's too difficult and dangerous, and people have been murdered in it. If you send money, is it getting to the people? But what we can do is raise our consciousness to the point that nobody will go to war. It's unthinkable to hurt another living being. So that's why working energetically, as you well know, Sarita, is a much quicker and more efficient way and mass way to do that and get to the point that we can never consider hurting another living being, and that includes animals and trees and all of that. So that is just an amazing vision for New Earth, a beautiful vision for New Earth.
It felt so good. I didn't want to come back. And what I've done is I've made the walk itself 21 minutes. It's quite a long meditation because you're standing at the knot, merging all your energy centers. Then the actual walk is 21 minutes because I know the solstice actually, not the solstice, the equinox fell on the 20th, but
Yes.
normally it's sort of around the 21st. So I was like, okay, I'm going to do it for 21 minutes. But I wanted to say to you, if there are a lot of people who are in the middle of all the angst and everything, there's a really effective way it's hard for some people to elevate their vibration when they're in the middle of something really difficult and desperate. And what I received this information, but if neutrality dissolves reality, because reality needs our image, our thought, and it needs an emotional projection to push the electrical signal out of our biofields, which then magnetizes back into our reality. And so when you can just practice neutrality, what happens is that you're seeing the images out there in your reality. So reality appears to be playing out there. But when you remove the emotional projection, actually what happens is the reality you see dissolves. It's the most amazing thing.
And that's why I'm always saying, stay on your eagle's perch, stay in a situation, stay in a state of divine neutrality. And because you can stay aware of what's happening, but don't emotionally engage. because then you get hooked in by quantum entanglement to what's playing out on that timeline.
Yeah, absolutely. And you're unconscious. The problem with humans mostly is that, well, not mostly, with most of humans, is that we're manifesting from our unconscious brain, which is a bigger supercomputer than the conscious mind. And manifesting is not limited to people who meditate. Every single person on this planet is manifesting. Yeah. We're creators. So it's just, what are you manifesting? Are you manifesting from your sovereign self, or are you manifesting from fear and what someone else is telling you to do, because otherwise you're going to die, and all this stuff's going to happen? So neutrality is a good first step for people who are really in the midst of the angst that's going on. And I always encourage people to try this, like if they're having a difficult relationship with someone, because you see it happen so fast. You just become neutral and it just dissolves, it just shifts. It's miraculous.
Yeah, I really agree. And I often use Ho'oponopono or the infinity wave. You talk about the infinity wave. Hope Fitzgerald had that download of the infinity wave. And those two together can work miracles. It just kind of dissolves the angst of whatever's happening. And I've used it locally on a neighbour, actually, who was very difficult. And it's really softened that whole relationship.
What did you do? Did you put it on top of her or something?
No, I just, as I was walking towards her, because I walk her dog every morning, and I was walking towards her, and I was just saying it over and over and over and over again and doing the infinity wave. And yeah, it's turned around really 180 degrees. So.
Yeah, and you can visualize an infinity gold. I use gold infinity quite a lot, but you can put, so if you're having a lot of negative thoughts, you can put a gold infinity in your brain. You know, if you need to speak, you can put one in your mouth. Or if you're having a problem with someone, you can weave it from their heart to your heart to back again. It's just, I can't remember if I told you this in the last time, but I've had a few clients that were estranged from their children. And I got them to do the infinity wave with gratitude with their children. And the first person, as we finished it, a message arrived on their phone. They hadn't heard from them for 5 years or something. And, you know, and something similar happened with the second one. They got an email or whatever the next day. And it was just like, this stuff it really works, because we are infinity.
Yes.
And so when we absolutely align ourselves to that truth, everything just kind of unfolds for you. But I just think it's really important that we do this work.
And how often should we do this particular walk, Sarita? Every week, every day? What would you say?
This is what I feel about manifesting meditations. I feel like if you get one moment where you feel it is so, you've done the work. It's the same with healing, you know. Healing used to take hours. It used to take hours, you know, healing people, whatever. And now it's so fast. I just feel like, I don't know if I can charge people really here. But it's what happens with healing is you get this one moment where you know.
Yeah. And
if you get that moment, the healing is done.
Yeah, yeah.
And so I definitely was in that moment last night. So I think I'm done. But the thing with the walk is you can do it as many times as you wish, and it feels so good. It's lovely to be in that kind of that connection to source consciousness, and to feel that connection in your body. Because even though I was out there really expanded, I was physically walking in a figure of 8. So my human apparatus was on the earth. It was both simultaneously, which is who we are.
Yeah. And would you describe it as a state of bliss, Serita?
It was blissful, but I think the overwhelming frequency that I got was peace.
Right, yeah, beautiful.
And I've thought about peace a lot, you know, in my life. And I'm one of those people who finds it very, very hard to relax and to feel safe. And that's one of the reasons that I do what I do. You know, I've had certain illnesses, cancer, I've had anxiety attacks, you know, I've had loads of different stuff, which has led me, thank you so much, to here. And because I'm hypersensitive, and because I practice feeling, which is what this work is, you feel yourself as multisensory. I notice that I often don't feel very safe. And I think that's because I'm picking up we're a collective species. I'm picking up what everybody else is feeling. I mean, I know, logically, I know I'm good. The kids are all fine. Well, everything's going great. Nothing, I've got, I'm under my own roof and everything's, I realize how lucky I am. But there's this undercurrent of never feeling safe. And that's what the negative agenda has been using, that those fear vibration, the shame, the guilt, the what do we call it, victim, perpetrator, rescuer scenario, and they've been using all of that to create this consensus reality that doesn't serve us. And so when I was doing this walk, the thing that just was so amazing is I just felt completely safe. I was so peaceful. It was just, I slowed right down. Time had no meaning. All the children were being looked after. No one was fighting anywhere. My thoughts, didn't have to hide any of my thoughts. I think a lot of us spend a lot of time hiding our thoughts. And I think one of the things that I've certainly, maybe you've done this as well, Pam, when you start a YouTube channel, you have to speak the truth.
Yeah. You have to be authentic, otherwise people will know, there'll be an energy resonance and people will know if you're not being authentic.
And it's really scary, isn't it? When you first begin anyway, putting yourself out there. And when I started to do my YouTube channel, I realized that I'd probably been, oh God, I'd spent years lying to myself or telling white lies or just lying basically about who I was. And I'm now reaching a stage where I just will not do that, no matter how uncomfortable it is. Obviously, I'm not, I wouldn't like try and hurt someone's feelings deliberately or whatever, but but I just try and tell the truth. And I suppose I'm very blunt, but I'm good with that. And that's what I also felt when I was doing this walk. It was like there was no need to lie or hide anything or pretend to be what you were not, or to worry about what anybody thought about you, because everybody could hear everybody's thoughts anyway, and they could feel one another.
That's the thing. It's going to be impossible to lie or be dishonest in future because we're all going to be able to read each other's energy. It's going to be spotted so quickly. So we have to be authentic. And I think unless you are in integrity and in your sovereignty and authenticity, you're not going to get to those higher dimensions. They're going to be kind of wobbles in the energy field. And so, what you're saying really resonates because you have that incredible sense of peace and safety. That's what you're beaming out to the world, and all the people that do this beautiful equinox walk that you've created are going to be beaming that out to the world as well. We are going to shift the collective timeline as a group if we can do that.
Yeah, you offer the web of peace essentially. And what I see happening now is, right now, what I see for the masses is that they're beginning to notice that the people in corporations and the people in power are lying to them. Right. So basically, everybody's pretty much worked that out now. I mean, there really isn't anyone. And, you talk to people who are not even spiritually inclined, or people who kind of want to be told what to do. And even they will say, oh, politicians always lie, or da da da. And so at the moment, we've reached this level where people can see the hierarchy, the powers are lying, but they're still lying to themselves about how they feel about that. So there's a kind of they're deliberately closing their eyes, if you like, to the truth. They can see the truth, but they're not looking at the truth inside them, because it's so horribly uncomfortable to realize.
Well, it shatters your worldview, doesn't
exactly. And also it's just awful. I mean, some of it's horrific. It's horrifying. And
but that process has to happen to get us to the next level of living in peace, living in love, living in joy, living in compassion, because we're not going to do that again.
Absolutely. And so that's all of the light workers that have dotted around, because they went through their lonely rite of passage awakening thing. They're there now. So they've been through it, because it has felt for years. I don't, if you felt this years ago, that you were just like the only one, or that there weren't many of us around, let's say. And now it feels like there's really big movement. And I don't know if you can see this in the algorithm of your reality, but if you're on YouTube or you're on Instagram, you'll know your level of frequency because we are in a reflective
Yeah.
holographic reality. So every thought and feeling you have is reflected back to you, and we see that very easily in the YouTube algorithms or the adverts or what the Instagram feed now. And it's just a matter of saying, oh wow, my Instagram feed's so positive and da da da. And then the truth is that your reality is an algorithm.
Well, what you're putting out, you're getting back. It's just a
Exactly.
mirror. Your outer reality is simply a mirror, and that's actually a very good demonstration of the mirror, isn't it?
Yeah, because this is another thing that I think happened in the lockdown. People started to notice that when they had a conversation with their loved one and their phone was in the room, suddenly they'd get their feed would match it. Then they started to notice if their phone was in a different room, and they had a conversation somewhere else, the feed would still match. And then people started to notice that if they had a thought, even if they told no one, I know some of your viewers will have had this experience, they told no one, it would appear on their algorithm feed. So we started to see it in the screens. But actually, if you can realize that you just got to look out and it's actually happening in this screen, your biofield, you can really see where you're at with your frequency.
And
It's
also, it shows
amazing.
the power of your thoughts, doesn't it?
Yes,
Which are
which is speeding up.
silent and invisible, but boom, look how it's reflecting back in your reality. So I think it's a great demonstration, a slightly unnerving one, but nevertheless, a very clear demonstration of how powerful your thoughts are.
Yeah, and time is speeding up. I think you've spoken about this as well.
Yeah, because it's related to consciousness. And as our consciousness expands, time is going to warp. In particular, expands. And I was talking about this back in March 2023 when Saturn moved into Pisces, because Saturn is linked to 3D reality and linear time, and Pisces dissolves.
Oh,
So
wow. Okay.
so Saturn finally moves out of Pisces finally in February next year, and it won't move back for another 29 and a half years. And so that should be the final mark on this particular episode for humanity of that tightness of linear time, that sense of contraction or being driven by the clock, because we're going to jump to a whole new level of a whole new state of being, I think, through these next couple of years. And particularly 2025 is a massive year of change and transition, the biggest one we've ever lived through.
Yeah. And also, what's been happening is so on this planet, we used to have a time lag with our manifestations.
Yeah, it's getting faster.
So yeah, so it's just gone. Like at some point, about a couple of years ago, I started to notice, you know how time speeds up when you're having fun, it slows down when you're having terrible time. So that's 2 years ago, there was a switch in that for me personally, and so other people started to say this as well. It started to slow down when I was having a really great time and speed up when things were going badly. And now, like you're saying, it flips between the two. But in terms of manifestation, it's
Quicker.
wow, it's just instant. And it's because the level of consciousness has risen. So, in the old days, if you had a problem with your neighbor and you weren't very conscious and you were thinking, I wish they were dead, we had to have a time lag because we just couldn't have stuff like that happening instantaneously. Whereas now there is a good proportion of people on this planet that understand that your thoughts and your words create reality. So certainly a lot of people that I know are being much more mindful about what they think and what they say. And also, I think something else that people are becoming aware of is that certainly the people that I'm teaching and working with is we've noticed in becoming aware of our thoughts that a lot of our thoughts are not ours. Have you had that?
Yes, yes, for sure. Yeah, and I think Byron Katie, I don't know her work well, but she talks about this a lot. Is this yours? Is
It's
this?
bananas.
Mm.
Yeah, so I shared this sort of example. I was walking down the road the other day. The sun was out. I was walking my dog, lovely French countryside. Anyway, a car passes me, and immediately in my brain, I get an image of me being hit by the car, lying in the ditch with all my organs open, and it's so vivid. And I stopped there for a minute, and I'm like, wait a minute, this is not mine. Where did this come from? And so I've got a method I use to get rid of those thoughts. I actually just say delete, delete, delete 3 times. And if that doesn't work, I talk gobbledygook for 1 minute, which seems to throw that kind of, I don't
Cranberry.
know what that is. It throws it out. It can't cope
Cranberry.
with it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I unwind.
Yeah. And I think that's, it's like a collective fear. And I've never even been in a car accident. I was having a really nice day. And it was like someone just placed it into my mind. It's just like, wait a minute, I'm sovereign. This is not mine. And I don't choose to accept this.
And
And so it goes.
that's going to become more and more important as we become more multidimensional and more psychically
Absolutely.
sensitive and more tuned in, less of a definite boundary, which is Saturn, more tuned in and malleable with other people's reality. So we're going to have to develop strong spiritual disciplines, such as you have, Sarita, to manage that, because we're shifting to a whole different level of spiritual sensitivity. So we're going to have these kind of tools in the toolkit to be able to deal with that quite quickly.
Yeah, spiritual boundaries is absolutely important. And it's weird because there's been this thing, especially in the spiritual community, saying, oh, you mustn't judge other people. Okay. And that's a very different thing from having discernment.
Yes, yes.
So discernment comes with spiritual boundaries. And I think you've spoken to Jim Self before, and he teaches this amazing thing, which I've gone on to teach as well. Oh, look, here it is. You place yourself in an octahedron, a white octahedron. And if you put yourself in a white octahedron, you see what is yours and what is not yours. And then what happens is you don't react, you respond.
Right. Yeah.
It's the most amazing spiritual tool. I work with it a lot. And yeah, so I think, because in the old days, if I'd been walking down the road and I had had that image, I'd have like gone straight down the rabbit hole. I'd be watching my own funeral. I'd be crying because I was missing my kids. And now it's just like, no, I'm not having it.
Yeah.
I'm done with that.
We're not doing that. Yeah, we're not doing that. And again, that comes back to sovereignty, doesn't it? In a very clear sense of self. Yeah. So that's
and the doing piece.
Yeah, and that's going to become so important as we go forward. No, I am the creator of my reality. Everything comes from inside me, not from out there. And being very clear and determined that that's going to be your focus.
Yeah, amazing.
Wow. So I'm really looking forward to sharing this with everyone, Sarita. Anything else you'd like to say on this Equinox Blossom New Earth Infinity Walk that, of course, you don't have to do just around now, the equinox? You can do it at any point in the future. It's still going to work because all time is now, as Serita says.
Yeah, no, I think just the last thing I would say is go and do it, because the more of us that harmonize, the more we're activating this beautiful new future for ourselves. And the thing is, it's up to us. That's what it is. And we've got these beautiful techniques to change our reality, so we should use them. And yeah, so if you need a demo, obviously it's on the website as well. It's just 5 minutes. And yeah, I'm so excited about this. I just really hope a lot of people do it. And if you don't do this one, just walk the 8 and create your reality and enjoy the process, because when you really tap into your multidimensionality, it's extraordinary. You really feel the truth of who you are. And this ascension into 5th dimensional consciousness is about the 5th center. It's about our truth. That's what we're moving into.
It's just so interesting. And we are in the process now. It's not that we're looking 10 years down the road, 1 year down the road, 1 month. We are in it. We are absolutely in this process. So every thought and feeling you have 24/7, you are putting paint on that canvas of the new earth. You're feeding new earth with its bricks and mortar. So be super conscious and super wise in all of your choices. What you say, what you think, how you act, be super, because you are going to be so darned proud of yourself if you get to the end of this major transformation, and be able to say to yourself, I could not have done more. I could not have done better. I could not have lived my truth in a bigger, higher way than I've done. I did the best I could. And then I think we can pat ourselves on our back and say we've lived a good life.
Yeah, I mean, really, this is the most important thing.
Yeah.
There's nothing more important. And I'd just like to say, Pam, your community is so incredible. Every single person who's watching this, who's part of your community, is doing their bit. And, we're so grateful. We've all found one another. And the change is here, it's happening, so it's actually really, really exciting, although a bit challenging at times. And yeah, I just thank you so much, Pam, for this opportunity to share the walk, and thank you for sharing your time with me.
No, wonderful. And I know it'll help people so much because it did the last time. And yeah, I just really want to say, because I don't say it often enough, thank you to my all my viewers and community out there, because they really are such loving people, incredibly big hearts and loving people. And every single one of them, every single one of us all over the world is making a difference to
Yeah,
this
absolutely.
major, unique evolution for humanity. And it's completely unique in human history. So let's not forget that and do the best we can. And just thank you a millionfold, everybody who's watching this. And thank you, Sarita, for your time as well, and all of your inspiration and your insight and your psychic gifts and your shamanic practices, because they are changing the world as well.
Thank you, Pam.
God bless. Thanks, everyone. Lots of love. Bye for now.
Bye.